The Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, has criticized the recent hike in petrol pump prices, calling it highly insensitive to the plight of the masses. The hike, which raised prices to between 1,050 naira to 1,150 naira per litre, has been attributed to rising crude oil costs, according to oil marketers and the Dangote Petroleum Refinery. However, the NLC argues that the government failed to engage stakeholders before implementing the price increase. NLC Deputy President Professor Theophilus Ndubuaku emphasized the need for inclusive dialogue, urging President Bola Tinubu to adopt consultative strategies like those of former leaders. He warned that the hike would exacerbate inflation and economic hardship, urging authorities to prioritize transparency and collaboration on policies affecting workers and the broader public. Now, for more on this, we are now joined by a public affairs analyst, Dr. Dikko Junction. He joins us from Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Johnson. All right, we'll try to reconnect with Dr. Johnson. Now, moving away from that, the death toll in the petrol tanker explosion at Dikko Junction near Suleja in Niger State has risen to 86, with 55 persons injured and receiving treatment at the hospital. By Saturday, when the incident happened, the death toll was put at 70 and 50 injured. However, more corpses have since been recovered and given mass burial in Dikko. A speeding fuel tanker crashed on Saturday morning in Dikko Junction between Niger and Kaduna states. Authorities also say a combined team of several response agencies attributed the cause of the explosion to the transfer of PMS from one tanker to another as residents scooped petrol spilling on the ground. Our correspondent Joshua Marai was on the ground and filed this report. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, we have tried to reconnect with Dr. Dikko Johnson. Dr. Jide, can you hear me? Hello, Dr. Jide, can you hear me? All right, we will be moving on now. President Bola Tinubu, or the ruling All Progressives Congress, has won 16 out of the 18 chairmanship seats in the local government elections in Ondo State. The chairman of the Ondo State Independent Electoral Commission, Joseph Aemo, declared this at the headquarters of the commission in Akure on Sunday. He noted that while the rescheduled election is being held in Ondo West local government area, results are being expected from Owo local government area. Now, only 12 political parties contested for the chairmanship and councillorship offices in the elections held on Saturday. Ahead of the poll, the People's Democratic Party announced its decision to withdraw from the election, saying it does not believe in the Ondo State Independent Electoral Commission to conduct a credible election. Still in politics, the Labour Party in Nasarawa State has reaffirmed its full support for National Chairman Julius Abure, aiming to take the party to greater heights. The state chapter also congratulated Abure on his recent victory at the Court of Appeal in Abuja, which validated the party's March 2024 National Convention in Anambra and confirmed his leadership. The judgment, delivered by Justice Hamma Barka, relied on the previous ruling in November 2024 in a case involving the Labour Party and the Independent National Electoral Commission. State Chairman Alexander Ombugu praised the court's decision, calling it a testament to Nigeria's legal system and the party's commitment to democratic principles. He urged aggrieved members to resolve differences amicably to ensure the party's success in the 2027 elections. Now to education. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, Taraba State University chapter, has called off its strike, which began on 5th December 2024. In a statement released on Saturday in Jalingo and signed by the union's chairperson, Dr. Garba Joshua, the strike was attributed to the state government's partial implementation of agreements concerning university funding payment of earned academic allowances, and minimum wage adjustments. Joshua thanked Governor Agbukefas for his leadership and intervention in resolving the issues, as well as the Ministry of Tertiary Education and the public for their support. The state government has pledged to address the union's concerns, committing to disburse 10% of the earned academic allowance arrears, with payments set to commence in February 2025. Meanwhile, the university's second semester examinations are scheduled to resume in the coming days. Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetokun has approved the distribution of new kits and uniforms to personnel of the Nigerian police force as part of efforts to improve officers' welfare and enhance professionalism. The initiative, announced by the force public relations officer Olumuyiwa Adejobi on Saturday, aligns with Egbetokun's vision to improve working conditions and raise professional standards within the force. Egbetokun also expressed optimism that the approval of the 2025 budget will facilitate more welfare-focused projects to further support officers. The Nigerian police force says it remains committed to maintaining a well-equipped and motivated workforce to ensure the safety and security of all Nigerians. Economic activities, including farming with improved healthy living, are among the new breath of life to be experienced by the members of Tudunwada, Kabong communities in Plateau State following a new road construction in the area. It is a 6.95-kilometer road that has witnessed a facelift within the 21 months of Governor Caleb Mutfwang's stay in office. Now, News Central's Chizoba Nyongwe tells us more.
Residents of Tudunwada and Kabong communities cannot contain their joy at the road construction work in recent times within their communities, noting the challenges they had faced in the past.
Honestly speaking, for the past 4 years that I live here, when I cough, it's just dust that I normally used to bring it out.
Our machine, they spoil for this road. You go buy machine before 1 year, go don't spoil. How we go do? How we go manage with your family?
I suffer no be small. My children, they don't feel come outside because of dust. My house, before I will sleep, I will carry a bedsheet, remove the dust before I will sleep. I suffer, I cry.
If there is rainy season, you can't climb the bike, because when you climb the bike, you fall with the bike. You injure yourself, you end up in the hospital.
It is a 6.95-kilometer road that has been left fallow. Government administrations have come and gone, but this time around, these community people are gladdened for this new phase of life.
I sleep on top of the titi yesterday. I turn. I feel like I'm in heaven. I thank Munufa very, very much.
We dey pray so God go help Caleb Mufan with the people, with the community. All this community, we dey pray for Caleb Mufan.
Thank God to this governor. He has remembered us. Indeed, he's a man of his word. He promised to visit this Kabong community, and he has done it.
Authorities in Plateau State say members of this community should expect more basic amenities.
Those houses that we need to shift, they need to understand that the little we have for the compensation, they will not get all now because not all is released. So, but they have to give way so that this road will continue.
We promised that we're going to fix this road. Today you can see that we are keeping to our promises. Yes. We are not going to relent. We are going to make sure that this road gets to the last point.
Safeguard this road, keep it well, guard the street lights, and ensure that every government facility is well protected.
And as a local government, we are going to support His Excellency with other facilities like primary health care and even water supply within the community.
We have gone 60 so far, 40% expected to be, because this was a too tedious terrain which we have overcome now. Here is just compensation, demolition and alignment. We forge ahead.
It is expected that this road rehabilitation project, when completed, will pave the way for smooth transportation, reduce the risk of accidents, and promote economic growth, among others. In Jos, Plateau State, for News Central, I am Chizoba Anyoi.
A young Almajiri boy from Borno State, Suleiman Adam, known as Abba Kaka, has turned his life around with a simple display of his creative talent. After developing a detailed artistic replica of the recently inaugurated overhead bridge, his work went viral thanks to a report by News Central. This remarkable story has led to life-changing opportunities for the young, talented African boy. News Central's Umari Kirawa, who has been following up with the Young Boys Initiative, completes the report.
Exactly 6 days after the report of the young African talent, Abba Kaka Adam, the Borno State government has stepped in.
The Zulum administration has always prioritized the education of the less privileged child. You could clearly see that this is a child with a very high IQ, extremely intelligent boy. So I have decided that as part of the component of innovation in our ministry where we harness talents, I am going to enroll him back in a regular school so that he will have a proper education background so that eventually we could have an architect in him. I have spoken to the commandant of the command school here in Maiduguri to enroll him on state scholarship. So he's going to be sponsored free and would follow up. As he spends the first 3 years, we'll enroll him into a proper technical school where he would realize his dream of being an architect.
We moved to Command Science Secondary School, Auno, where the young Abba Kaka was admitted on a full scholarship, supported with books, uniforms, sandals, mattress, among others, to ensure he receives a quality education.
In
this school, we have over 300 students brought in by the state government. So, as you can see, you have entered our classes and you have seen, and we hope that what we are doing will going to be appreciated and will be supported.
Abba Kaka's parents were also provided with financial aid of 250,000 naira for the upkeep of the boy and to improve their living standards.
Alhamdulillah, askrinya ala rangala ala nera mukwara sir ala kejira sir askrinya ala tara yanku monti so ngala ala kejinta mayo.
Ala gumnati ya kamande ala ba habsu kuma asinda baraza askrinya uduna ingana na yimba udebura dai gumnati no yi gozna alhamdulillah ni jeri dama kirawa ni ma dem fanni fanni so room fanni so ko to so gonum dai isum so do ham dai isa akira wa is fu wono dai askrinya ala kamande ala ni ndim kwaza kamande askrinya wallahi tara yin
These are some of the drawings made by Abba Kaka during his leisure time.
Umaru Kirawa has helped us by making sure that he connects the family of this boy and the Honorable Commissioner, and we're very, very impressed that in less than 24 hours of the entire thing, this child is now enrolled in schools, and he's not only enrolled in school, but one of the best schools that we have in the Northeast, because we have seen how productive and how progressive minded the students of this school are. Some of us have 1 or 2 relatives coming to this school, and we have seen how progressive these kids are and how different they are from their other peers that are outside there.
The Borno State government has pledged to continue to support talented individuals as part of recovery effort for the state after years of Boko Haram insurgency.
Governor Zulum has set aside over 10 billion naira this year for scholarships just for these purposes. And it is our intention to build our citizenry so that we become a hub for innovation and skilled workers in future.
Abba Kaka's story is a powerful reminder of the transformative impact of creativity and the need to empower more children from underprivileged communities. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umar Kirawa.
And now we'll go back to the story of petrol price surge, and we have joining us public affairs analyst Dr. Dikko Junction joining us from Lagos. Good morning, Dr. Jide. Thank you for joining us once again.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So now, looking at the story, of the price hike, it's been one too many. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's very clear. The government embarked on the regulation when the president gave his speech, his inaugural speech, May 29, 2023. He said that subsidy is removed and everything was left to the forces of the market. And demand and supply will determine it, and then we have the intervention of the private sector with the coming on board of Dangote refinery, and then NNPC for the first time in the history of Nigeria gave some measure of accountability, and we have seen the movement. There's no way the prices of petroleum product will remain the same. It will fluctuate. It will be subject to whatever you have with the market forces in the market. So as far as I'm concerned, we should expect this. We should expect a rise and fall in the price of petroleum product as a result of the deregulation, because there's no longer subsidy in the market concerning that particular sector.
All right, now the NLC has actually said that the government needs to learn to engage stakeholders. Now, what alternative strategies, can the government adopt to engage these stakeholders more effectively, especially in decisions affecting petrol pricing?
Well, as far as it's complete deregulation. You see, it was complete and total deregulation of the telco sector in early 2000 at the dawn of this democratic experience. And look at what happened to the telco sector concerning that complete overhaul of that deregulation. It liberalized the market, it stabilized the market, and it brought growth in the information technology industry, which hitherto was never like that when Nitel has absolute control over the telco sector. So we are looking forward to a situation whereby the federal government will divest its investment in NNPC, just like you have in Aramco in Saudi Arabia, and just like you have in Petronas in Brazil. And then you have active participation of the private sector in this particular sector. And that's what will bring about relief. Any form of palliative. Look, every successive government in my teenage and adult life has removed petroleum subsidy, and they've come up with different forms of palliative. And what has that palliative done to the populace is just dropping water into the ocean. It does not have any complete effect. What will bring about a turnaround in that particular sector is for government to completely divest its control in the petroleum sector. Let the people in the private sector operate this, and let government regulate and make money from it.
All right, now, Dr. Johnson, speaking of successive governments, Nigerians have never had it this bad, in previous governments. So how do you think that this surge would impact, inflation cost, inflation rates, the cost of living, and also overall economic stability in the short and long term?
Well, the area of my disagreement with this government policy is about the area of overregulation. Taxation does not improve the economy. Deregulation improves the economy. And what this government has done is to remove the safety nets of whatever welfare the citizenry are enjoying from the government. The government seems to be running at many directions in trying to bringing about reform, and this reform is strangulating Nigeria. You have inflation at 34.8%, which is 35%, which has put a heavy burden on every Nigerian. The cost of living is high, the standard of living is low, and then the government is coming up with tax reform. You also have government allowing the people in the telecom sector to increase their various tariffs that they impose on it. So when government imposes too much tariff, look, what is the approach? In the United States of America today, a new president will be sworn in, and what was the cardinal principle of no tax on tips, and it's looking at removing income taxes. It's looking at to generate revenue from tariffs other than income taxes, and then it's establishing, instead of internal revenue services, it's establishing external revenue services. Now, government all over the world are resumed taxation, but in Nigeria we are running contrary to that purpose. We are having too much regulation, too much taxation, and increases on rates and taxes that take away money from the disposable income of the citizenry, and that itself we have untold hardship on the citizens. So I disagree with this government in that particular area of taxation, removal of tariffs. The electricity tariff was increased. Now you have increasing the telco tariffs And what do we have to show for you? What they will tell you is that, oh, we are giving more money. We are giving more money to the subnational. The states are getting more allocation. The local government are getting more allocation. Are these allocations being felt by the people in their various localities? That's another question, another issue for another day for us to discuss.
Well, you talked about, tariffs, reforms, and, I agree with you when you say that all of these are actually not working, and it doesn't seem like the government is actually listening to the people. So what can be done for the government to listen to the people and give the people what they want, and speaking of the reforms, to be able to reflect in the lives of the people?
Representative of the people, who happens to be the legislature, who are the elected representative of people who are meant to serve as checks and balances in the presidential system of government that will produce, have been in cahoots with they are not doing their oversight function. You look at what happened last week concerning the presentation of the budget, defense of the budget by the IGP of the police, whereby the IGP appeared before the committee, joint committee of the National Assembly, and what he was reading, was different from what was given to all other members of the National Assembly, apart from the chairman. And you look at the way the chairman of that committee, the way he degraded and his fellow members when they ask questions concerning what he's reading, they don't have access to it. So what we can only do is to look at the quality of people we elect into the House of Rep, the quality of people we elect into the Senate, and the quality of people we are allowed to be the leadership of these various legislative bodies. Because the actual representative of the people are the legislature. They are the ones that have the power over the force. They are the ones that have power over any government policies that is being instituted by any administration. And when this body that is meant to serve as checks and balances, that is meant to be the representative of the people, has become an extension of the office of the president or become the extension of the office of the governor, then you know that there's no hope for anybody, there's no hope for any common man concerning that. So we are left at the mercy of those who have elected. What we can do is to wait for the next 4 years.
Well, aside waiting for the next 4 years, you did talk about, listening to representatives of the people. But then, are there lessons that can be drawn, from former Nigerian leaders' consultative approaches in managing public concerns over sensitive economic policies?
What is the confidence of Nigeria in the electoral process? And having Nigeria is confidence in the electoral process. What is the confidence? Where does the sovereignty of those that are in power today, where did it come from? Did it come directly from the people? Majority of the people that are in public offices today, their sovereignty came from the courts. It was the court that makes determination concerning that. And so it is where your sovereignty lies, that's where your attention will go. And that's why you see that the various first attempts that are made by different government at different levels, whose salary was first increased when this administration came to power? Whose salary was first? It was the salary of the judicial officers that was first increased. So that's where their sovereignty comes from. And so it's very clear who pays the piper dictates the tune. As far as the present democratic arrangement that we have, which is cash and carry democracy, which is a judiciocracy which is determined by the judiciary, will be left at the mercy of those that are in public offices because they did not come to power through popular sovereignty. They came to power through judicial pronouncement, and so they will not listen to public opinion. It is only those that came to power through popular sovereignty that listen to public opinion because they know that their sovereignty lies with the people. Their access to power lies with the people. But it's a situation whereby your mandate is a narrow mandate, is a minority mandate, and it's determined by the courts, and then you can call the bluff of the citizenry because you don't need them as long as you can manipulate the process to become the president or the governor or the local government chairman of your respective area.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Dikko Junction, for speaking to us. Thank you for staying with us. Amnesty International has reported that both the Democratic Republic of Congo's army and a Rwandan-backed militia have likely violated the rules of war by firing explosives into civilian areas. The rights group says more than 100 civilians were killed in eastern DRC during the first half of 2024 due to the indiscriminate use of ground-launched rockets. Both the Congolese army and the M23 movement, which claims to defend ethnic Tutsis, are responsible for using inaccurate weapons in densely populated areas. Since late 2021, M23 forces, backed by 3,000 to 4,000 Rwandan soldiers, have seized parts of mineral-rich East, worsening the humanitarian crisis. Amnesty called for the International Criminal Court to investigate these attacks as potential war crimes. Despite efforts to end the violence, clashes continue, with the M23 taking control of Lumbishi in South Kivu on Saturday. Violence has erupted in South Sudan, with 12 people killed in the past 2 days in attacks targeting citizens from neighboring Sudan. The clashes were sparked by reports of 29 South Sudanese killed in Sudan's Al Jazeera state, leading to the looting of Sudanese-owned businesses in the capital, Juba. Police fired on protesters, killing 3 and injuring 7. A curfew was imposed, but protests spread to other towns, resulting in 9 deaths in Awil. Despite the unrest, police report that the situation is relatively calm. The streets of Juba appeared calm on Saturday evening with a heavy police presence. South Sudan President Salva Kiir has called for restraint. Over 600 Sudanese have been taken to army headquarters for protection, and 278 others were under police protection. The violence highlights the ongoing tensions between South Sudan and Sudan, which have been exacerbated by the conflict in Sudan that began in April 2023. Now we move to Uganda, where opposition leader Kizza Besigye has been placed in solitary confinement at Luzira Maximum Security Prison. Besigye, who is on trial for charges including treason, is being held in a cell where he is not allowed to interact with other prisoners or attend prayers. He is only permitted to speak to visitors, including family members, via telephone. Prison officials have refused to allow supporters to provide Besigye with food from outside the prison. His wife, Winnie Byanyima, alleges that he was kidnapped in Kenya in November and is now facing prosecution on trumped-up charges. The trial has sparked concerns about the suppression of opposition in Uganda ahead of 2026 presidential elections. The international community has expressed concerns about the treatment of Besigye and the conduct of the trial. The UN and human rights organizations have called for fair and transparent proceedings. In other news from around the world, thousands have gathered in Washington, D.C. to protest the incoming Trump administration at the People's March. Organizers expect up to 50,000 participants, while police estimate around 25,000. The march comes ahead of the inauguration of President-elect Donald Trump, with final preparations underway due to cold weather. The ceremony has been moved indoors. Trump is scheduled to arrive in D.C. later for a series of events before being sworn in on Monday. The protests and inauguration are drawing significant attention, with tensions surrounding the transition of power. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has extended his congratulations to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump ahead of his second inauguration, affirming that the long-standing special relationship between the two nations will continue to thrive. Trump will be sworn in for a second term in the White House on Monday, 8 years after his first inauguration. Starmer highlighted the strong friendship between the U.S. and the U.K., emphasizing the commitment to work together for the prosperity of both nations. He pledged continued collaboration to benefit people on both sides of the Atlantic. Meanwhile, Trump addressed supporters at a rally on the eve of his inauguration, asserting that they had created a new American majority that will drive the nation towards long-term success. UK politicians, along with other dignitaries, are in Washington for the ceremonies, but concerns linger over the potential global economic impact of Trump's second presidency. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned that Israel reserves the right to resume fighting in Gaza with U.S. support. Despite the ceasefire, in the televised statement, Netanyahu also pledged to bring home all hostages held in the Palestinian territory. Now, the ceasefire agreement includes the release of 33 hostages, mostly alive, in exchange for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees. The 42-day first phase of the ceasefire started Sunday, but Netanyahu emphasized that it is a temporary ceasefire and that Israel will resume the war with force if necessary.
אנחנו שומרים על הזכות לחזור למלחמה, אם צריך, בגיבויה של ארצות הברית.
In business, Nigeria has delivered its first shipment under the African Continental Free Trade Area to Kenya's Mombasa port, coordinated by the Nigerian AFCFTA Coordination Office led by Olusegun Awolowo. The shipment, comprising synthetic filaments from Lucky Fibers Limited, Lush, a Tolaram Group subsidiary, was exported under AFCFTA preferential trade terms. Senior trade expert Olusegun Olutayo hailed the milestone as a triumph for African economic integration and praised President Bola Tinubu's reforms for boosting Nigeria's role in the AFCFTA. The cooperation with Kenyan authorities highlights the agreement's potential to foster intra-African trade and drive the continent's industrialization and economic growth. The Nigerian equity market lost 1.45 trillion naira last week, with the all-share index dropping 2.94% to 102,353.68 points and market capitalization falling to 62.85 trillion naira. Trading volume decreased with 2.252 billion shares worth 58.83 billion naira exchanged, dominated by financial services sector, that's 60.86% of volume, and Naymet International Pharmaceuticals PLC led gainers plus 31.42%, while Universal Insurance PLC topped losers minus 19.23%. Globally, markets rose in China's strong fourth quarter GDP growth and eased U.S. core inflation, boosting the MSCI World Equity Index by 2%, and in the U.S., December CPI increased 0.4%, aligning with expectations, signaling optimism for potential Federal Reserve rate cuts. We'll take a break now. The news resumes shortly. Now in the world of sports, Ayimba FC ended their CAF Confederation Cup campaign with a 3-1 defeat to defending champion Zamalek in Cairo on Sunday. The loss destroyed Ayimba's slim hopes of a quarter-final qualification, as they struggled against the dominant hosts. Mustafa Shalabi's first half header gave Zamalek the lead, and Zefaden Jaziri capitalized on a goalkeeping error early in the second half to double the advantage. Ifeanyi Eze pulled one back for Ayimba in the 57th minute, netting his fourth goal of the group stage. Jaziri sealed Zamalek's victory late on with a solo effort, ending Nigeria's representation in the tournament. The 2025 Federation Cup national draw for both men's and women's competition will take place on the 11th of April at the NFF Secretariat in Abuja. 2 clubs from each of Nigeria's 36 states and the FCT will feature with the men's tournament beginning with a round of 64, while the women's competition starts at the round of 32. The knockout stages are set for 3rd to 4th of May, with round of 16 matches on the 14th of May. Quarterfinals will be held on the 5th of June, followed by semi-finals on the 18th of June. The grand finale is scheduled for the 28th of June. Winners of the Federation Cup will represent the country in the 2025-2026 CAF Confederation Cup. Defending champion Yannick Sinner battled through intense heat and a 20-minute net repair delay to defeat Holgaroon and secure a spot in the Australian Open quarter-finals. Sinner overcame physical challenges, including a medical timeout for shaking hands and elevated heart rate to win 6-3, 3-6, 6-3, 6-2. The match also saw Roon receive treatment for a knee issue. With the win, Sinner extended his streak to 18 matches. The 23-year-old is now set to face either Alex de Minaur or Alex Michelson as he continues his bid to defend his Grand Slam title to claim a 3rd major victory. And that's all on the news at this hour. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines. We told you that NLC faults fresh hike, says federal government insensitive. We also told you that President Tinubu, Buhari, others mourn as death toll hits 86. Finally, you heard that clashes erupt in Sudan over reported killings of South Sudanese. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.